Thank you. Chair Powell, you spoke about elevated uncertainty and declining sentiment in the U.S. economy. Do you believe, as I do, that the economy would be in a better position but for the elevated uncertainty and declining sentiment created by the Trump tariffs?
I don't want to be criticizing policies. I will say uncertainty has...
Is it fair to say that the policy created uncertainty?
It's fair to say uncertainty was very elevated, but it's also fair to say that uncertainty has actually come down since the peak, if you will, in April. I think there's a different feeling out there now than there was 2 months ago, and it's more constructive feeling on the part of businesses, which you must be feeling too.
But it's higher than it otherwise would be in the absence of the Liberation Day tariffs. To what extent was the elevated uncertainty a factor in keeping the Fed from cutting interest rates?
So I think that's part of it. The truth is, we were cutting rates, and we paused in January and haven't cut rates since. And really, the reason is that we, like other forecasters, do expect a fairly substantial wave of price increases to come through to the consumer and to measured inflation. We've always said the timing, amount, and persistence of all that is highly uncertain. I think we hadn't expected to see it until now. We now begin to think it is time for us to be seeing that, and if we don't see it, that will matter. If we do see it, that will matter. So we've just taken a cautious approach to not moving our policy rate until we have a little more confidence about the size and likely effects of that.
Chair Powell, following the so-called Liberation Day tariffs in early April, we saw something the U.S. economy had not seen in decades: a flight not to the U.S. dollar as a safe haven, but away from it. And since President Trump's inauguration, the U.S. dollar index has fallen by nearly 10%, marking the worst first-half performance for the dollar since 1986. At the same time, Japan, America's largest sovereign creditor, just saw the worst 20-year Japanese government bond auction since the 1980s, raising fears that it could reduce its holdings of U.S. treasuries. Given these developments, do you believe, as I do, that the U.S. may be transitioning from a period of dollar dominance to a period of dollar decline?
Well, let me say, the Fed does not have responsibility for the dollar. That's really the Treasury. But
I'm asking for your analysis.
I wouldn't make that statement. No, I think things have been volatile. The markets are digesting things, and I think the Treasury market's been fine by many measures. The dollar is still
you feel the safe haven status of the dollar is as strong as it's ever been?
I think the dollar is still the #1 safe haven currency, and I don't think it's, I would say these narratives of decline are premature and a bit overdone.
I want to ask about the debt. The big, beautiful bill would have ugly consequences for our nation's finances, adding more than $2 trillion to the debt if the provisions are temporary, and far more if made permanent. We've accumulated World War II levels of debt, not during a world war, but during peacetime. Interest payments on the debt have become the largest item in the federal budget after Social Security, surpassing Medicaid, Medicare, and military defense. To what extent is the U.S. at risk of entering a debt spiral in which rising interest costs lead to ever larger deficits, which in turn lead to ever larger interest costs?
Yeah, I think that the U.S. federal budget is on an unsustainable path. The debt is not at an unsustainable level right now, but the path is not sustainable, and I think the sooner we deal with that, and by we I mean you, the better.
The Trump administration has championed the unitary executive theory, the notion that the president has absolute power over all entities that wield executive power. That theory, if taken to an extreme, would all but abolish the independence of the Federal Reserve. If monetary policy became nothing more than an expression of presidential will and whims, what havoc would that wreak on the U.S. economy?
I think that independent central banks have proven over time to be a valuable and critical institutional practice. And I think that is because basically advanced economy democracies around the world have given their central banks a degree of operational independence. They assign them goals. You go do this and you stick to those things, but we'll let you you know, you may choose the means of achieving those goals. It's called instrument independence, but not goal independence. And I think it's a very
Gentleman's
important,
time has expired.
very important practice.